Hey everyone, I have Mark here with me to talk to me about cool Power BI dashboards that we created for Arc-enabled servers. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Leor's here, another Jumpstart Lightning episode, and I have Mark here with me. Mark, how are you doing, my friend?
Not so bad, Leo. It was really great to be here.
Thank you for joining me. Mark, this is your first time on the show. Before you go out and nerd out about all the good things that you've been doing, who you are, what is it that you do?
Thanks, Leo. So my name is Mark. I'm a cloud solution architect within the UK Microsoft team. I work with some really, really big customers on Arc, and I'm also a Jumpstart core maintainer. I'm really excited to talk about some of the Power BI dashboards that we've been creating together.
Definitely our recent addition to the team. So welcome officially to the team, Mark, as a Jumpstart core maintainer. Mark, you and I got to know each other a few months back when I got introduced to you and the work that you've been doing on all the Power BI dashboards that are specific for the work that you've been doing with Arc-enabled servers. And since then, that thing, been skyrocketing in terms of adoption, in terms of how you are using it, others are using it. We keep getting asks about this. So we thought that today, we'll bring you into the show. Let's have a conversation about this. So without further ado, Mark, what is it that we're here to talk about today?
Thanks, Leo. Really exciting to be talking about these Power BI dashboards that have become really, really popular with a lot of the customers who are currently on Arc. Before I go into the dashboards and start showing you what they can do and some of the insights they can unlock, I thought it would be just good to just take a moment to talk about why I first created the dashboards. And as I said previously, I've been working with a lot of really, really big, complex customers with Arc. And as we go on that journey with Arc, with these customers, as we start to onboard all of these servers, what I was finding and what we were talking about with the customer was a lot of the servers that were being onboarded to Arc were really, really old in terms of they were currently in extended support or soon to be in extended support. And this was a pattern, not just in one customer, but it was in a lot of customers, which got me asking the question with all of the data and every customer had a CMDB of their own. Why was this still happening? Why were they leaving Windows and SQL and Linux versions to fall into these extended support periods and fall out of date? Is there a better way of doing this? And as we start to onboard customers into Arc, effectively, what we're doing is populating a resource graph database that sits within each customer's or inside your Azure tenant. And this becomes almost like a self-documenting CMDB. The trick would be, how do we get this data out and how do we get this democratized so that anybody in the business who has an interest in terms of our server and our fleet management, how do we give them that kind of insights? And this is what bore out the Power BI dashboards, which as we connect servers to Arc, we populate this thing called Azure Resource Graph, which is a free custo database that we can start to query. And how do we share that with our customers? Well, we're going to use Power BI, and so we can democratize that across our enterprise, which means we can take out all of that need to go and have to log into the Azure portal and use the existing dashboards in there, which are really, really useful for IT people, but for our business stakeholders, something easier needed to happen. And this is what the Power BI dashboards do. Now, when we go into the Power BI dashboards, one of the big things that I started to create these dashboards for was to address this problem with these out of support or soon to be out of support servers, and these servers that are being paid for from extended support or ESUs. These can be really, really costly. Or if you're not buying those ESUs, and even worse, you're running the risk of not having those security patches and those security updates. And so I'm a big fan of the 1980s, as you could tell from the Lego behind me. And after watching The Karate Kid, one of the things Miyagi-san said was, the best box to a punch was not to be there. And by using these dashboards, actually what we can do is something really, really cool. We can start to address legacy versions of Windows and SQL and Linux and get visibility of those so we can address those before they actually become a problem and start to pay for those ESUs.
Yeah. Mark, definitely also a big fan of Mr. Miyagi. I have memories of Wax On, Wax Off with Daniel LaRusso. But, Mark, I've been saying this many, many times. ESU has been one of those pivotal moments, or the integration with extended security updates has been one of those pivotal moments in the journey of Arc, and specifically with Arc-enabled servers. And I think that, that's one of the biggest problems that we've been seeing with customers and partners and the community around the insights that's got to do with how do you actually take advantage of that benefit, that huge benefit that we offer customers in the context of Arc-enabled servers and extended security updates. So I think that, Mark, I think it's time for you to really show me the magic and tell us how we actually, using it.
Yeah, so let me just dive straight into the dashboards itself. So this is the dashboard that is now freely available and is available in our Jumpstart drops, and we'll show you how to use that and go and get that in a minute. It has 4 main dashboards, which I'll go through each one. The first one of these is just our basic server inventory. But this inventory goes across both Azure servers, so anything that's an Azure native VM, as well as our Arc connected servers. And you can see the different KPI cards along the top, denoting which servers are which ones. Now, when I was working in IT and going back quite a few years now, I would often get asked as an IT person, hey, how many Windows Server Data Center 2016 servers do we have? And this would be a really tricky question that would cause me days of work to go and answer. It's now that easy. With all of your servers, get them all connected, get this dashboard downloaded and working for you, and it becomes this easy. Look, I've got 2016, I've got 8 servers, 1 in Azure, 7 are connected, and I can see all of the core counts and the memory attributed to each one of those as well. There's a bunch of other metrics on here that start to help in terms of managing your Arc estate as well. You can see your provisioning state, you can see your agent versions, you can see the current server status, whether they're connected, running, disconnected. Starts to really just help you, and you can got a bunch of filters along the top, and these are across every dashboard to help you understand exactly where your estate is. But it becomes that easy to start answering what used to be really, really difficult questions in terms of that. Next to that, we've got our server inventory, SQL Server inventory, I should say, which now goes that step deeper down the chain in terms of what SQL servers do we have. And again, we're looking at that single pane of glass view in terms of what are my SQL instances on Azure native VMs, as well alongside that are connected VMs. Alongside that as well, I've got all of the information here, so we can do the same thing again. We can do the same filtering. How many SQL Server 2016 Enterprise editions do I have? Really, really easy to answer. But one of the really cool things that we can do with Power BI is that we can start to connect this data with other data sources within our enterprise or outside of our enterprise as well. With public data, we can start to do some really cool things with this. And so I've drawn a line down this chart just to kind of demonstrate one of those things that's happening right now. On the left-hand side of that line, everything, all of this inventory about the different types of servers, whether it's an AVG, FCI, etc., comes from Arc data. So via that resource graph, we've got our Arc connected servers. That's coming into this dashboard through Arc. Everything on this side of the line, I'm getting from a public website, which is about how many patches do we have for SQL Server, what patch versions are the latest ones, and how can we measure our current patch status against that. So effectively, I'm taking this SQL Server version number and checking it against the latest patches that we have available through MS Learn. There's a public link for that. And then we can start to measure how far behind my patching is. And I've got some work to do. I've got a few servers that need patching in my demo environment. But it just goes to show this could be extensible for any type of data that you've got in your enterprise. Effectively use these dashboards as a great starting point, but then you can start to build these as you want them from that point. Next to that as well, we can go even deeper into the SQL Server platform. And we can start to take a look at our databases as well. So all of this information, again, comes from Resource Graph connected to Arc. We can get all of the information about our database statuses, whether the collations are in place, what our database recovery is looking like. And we can start to filter this by system databases or user databases. We can have a look either way there. But this becomes really, really useful if you just want to spot check, are my databases got the right recovery model? Do they have the right settings in place? And do they have enough disk space and things like that on top of that? And what's really, really interesting, when I was working with a couple of customers, they had some really old databases that had been upgraded since 2000 days, all the way through to 2016, but had a few settings that were left at the database level that mean they were not optimal. And just quickly, just by turning this to red, because there are things like auto close was turned on, it was really, really powerful for them to go, that's one of those servers that's always been a problem for us. Picking up that misconfiguration just by glancing at that, they were able to mitigate that and then go and change the size of that server on premise, which they were trying to fix in a number of different ways, but just by putting bigger tin underneath it. Simple configuration change, that problem goes away. And the dashboard kind of shines a lot of light on it. And the last one, and this is the one where we're going into that extended support problem with that Miyagi approach of saying, hey, maybe the best way to have ESUs is not to have them, just don't have any. And so what this dashboard does is, instead of focusing on servers that are currently within extended support, which it will do, it will pick up 2012 servers, it will pick up SQL 2012 servers. This starts to have a look at the ESUs that are just around the corner. So for Windows Server, for SQL Server 2016, we're looking at end dates for Windows Server of January 27, and for SQL 2016, July 26. So they're not too far away when we can start to consider what we need to do to effectively lift these servers out of that ESU. But by getting that visibility now and seeing all of the dollar costs that this could predict out, so it's predicting out what those ESU costs could be, we can put this in front of our business stakeholders and say, hey, we need to address this now. Otherwise, this is going to be the yearly cost of our ESU in 12, 18 months' time when these ESUs actually land. And so by just using this dashboard to just visualize exactly where you are right now, so all of this inventory is what you have available in your subscriptions right now, coupled with just working out what those predicted ESU costs are, and they are a prediction. We have no official release from Microsoft in terms of what the ESU pricing is for 2016. So this is just an estimate based on today's pricing. But this is what this would start to look like, and it gives you that timeline, and then starts to give you some options on how to avoid those costs by modernizing, migrating to Azure. All of those options become available to try and address that.
Beautiful. Mark, like definitely the ESU forecast is my favorite dashboard. Kind of brings everything together, right? I mean, that's kind of the point. And I think that, as you go through the journey of the insights, of the environment, then finishing with the ESU forecast, that really hits the nail. Mark, show me real quick, like, how do we get started with this?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Leo. So how do we get started with this? So this dashboard is available in our Jumpstart drops. So just navigating this, you have to sort it by the most popular ones. It is number 1 at the moment, which I'm pretty proud of. But yeah, so it's there. Just hit download. Effectively, then what you're going to get is a Power BI template, which is just looking like the file that I just had, but it's going to be blank the first time that you set it up. But just hit download. All of the information is in here in terms of how to get connected with this. But let me just quickly show you how that will actually work as well. So the first time that you run this dashboard, it's going to ask you for a login. And this is really, really critical, because effectively this is what's going to connect this dashboard to your Azure Resource Graph in your Azure tenant with all of your subscriptions in. And what that's going to look like, if I just get it up here, is it's going to look like this. Okay, so the first time you run this dashboard, this is going to pop up in front of you. And effectively, it's asking you to sign in with a login. Now that login needs to be an Azure identity, so an Azure login to that subscription that has read access to that Azure Resource Graph, so we can read all of it, run all of its queries, so we can pull all of that data into this dashboard and get it working. Once you've got that set up and you sign in with that user, that's it. Effectively, it will start to work. And effectively, all of this data that you see in front of you will be replaced with what is in your resource graph, what is your Arc connected servers, what are your Azure native servers, and then this dashboard will just work for you.
Beautiful.
Then from there, you can go and publish this and share it with your other users within your enterprise off the back of that.
Beautiful. I'm loving it. Mark, this is such an important work, and as you mentioned, already the number one drop. So definitely kudos to you on making this happen. For the Jumpstart Lightning viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, subscribe. We're gonna see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.